Hello everyone, my name is Matt Scorpion and I wanted to go to a throwback on Destiny 1 to discuss something that's for the future in Destiny 2, which is something that could develop more in the future, something that could never happen, and what that is old legacy exotics coming back once again. Now, if you don't know and you lived under a rock, Destiny had a variety of exotic weapons in the start that have steadily either existed in Destiny 2 right off the bat, or just one-to-one were steadily added back to Destiny 2 across the years, being reworked and buffed to fit the sandbox as it changed. Now, there is a bunch that have still been left behind, and there is a select few that should make their way back, some that might never come back just because of how broken they were, and some that won't come back because they already have many versions, or at least some that shouldn't come back because one has already kind of countered that. Now, starting from this top, I'm going to look at these. I'm not going to include any of the exotic primaries from the raids that have elemental versions, obviously, because those are gimmicks, those are copies of raid weapons, not to mention that a bunch of these have already been in Destiny 2 with reprised raids. The only ones that we haven't seen just yet are the Wrath of Machine Gear, just because that hasn't been reprised just yet. Now, there is a few gaps in this list, but there are some that I just remembered right off the top of my head. So, just going with the flow, starting from the very top with some of these primaries. Zalo's Supercell. Now, this was one of the limited elemental weapons that we had that wasn't a part of the Moments of Triumph for Praise raid gear, which is, put simply, Risk Runner, but you didn't need to take arc damage before getting the electrostaticy bullets. Not to mention the fact that it is also pretty much Risk Runner, just in auto rifle form. Will that come back? Probably not. Now, I say that with a grain of salt, obviously, because Red Death, which we'll talk about later, is something that I never thought would come back, considering Crimson was its mini version. But, obviously, this isn't the case. Then, Hard Light, already returned. Suros, already returned. Monte Carlo, already there. The First Curse. This is a personal favorite of mine, and I would definitely hedge for this one to come back, because it is antithesis of the Last Word in the form of a very hard-hitting, slow-shooting hand cannon. Now, I would almost call this one the first Ariana's Vow, but it was a lot simpler considering its literal perks were basically it had triple tap, it had incredible range and damage, and the perk was pretty much get a kill, you get a boost to your range and stability until reload. Think of it like Killing Tally, but with range and stability instead. It was an incredibly fun hand cannon. It was almost a second Hawk Moon, because occasionally if you had low enough resilience you could 2-tap. It would need some reworking, but I definitely find that this could exist pretty well in a Destiny 2 reverse if they get it right and don't make it too overpowered. Then there's also Last Word. That one's already returned. Hawk Moon returned in a weird way. Now, personally, I don't remember what is exactly currently here, but I am pretty sure this one was just No Time to Explain, which we've already seen that come back again. Then we also have Bad Juju and Red Death. Now, this one is coming back, already confirmed with Final Shape, so I don't have to speculate. This one is coming back. I'm not sure how they would rework it, considering Red Death perk was pretty much kills, heal, and speed up reloads, which Crimson, main difference, it heals and autofills on precision kill. But it was one of the most iconic ones and one of the oldest ones, so there was hope that it would always come back, and it is. We'll just have to wait and see how it got redone. Then Boolean Gemini. Think of this as Encore before it was Encore, because you had it set where you could pick a perk, and you could have it that agility would be granted on precision kills, or the other way, where if you got non-precision kills, you would get bonus resilience, or armor, as it was. This was pretty much a simple exotic because it was pretty much just high cal, unflinching, its variety, and either of those two perks, not at the same time. It was a pretty solid one, and I could see this one working similarly just because of, with all the font boosters for resilience and all that sort of stuff, it could come into play, but it's hard to say if that would be enough to have that simple gesture as it. And then, of course, we already got Touch of Malice back, and then we're going to be getting into some more variety here next up. So, on current primaries, we have Fabian Strategy. This one is one that will be weird, because like Ace of Spades, this one is specific to just Titans, which its premise is pretty simple. You get life support, which is basically, think of it like unrelenting in a primitive form. It had a natural version of Rampage, not to mention it also had this one, which was basically when you're close to something, you get handling, you get handling stability and rate of fire buff when close, and kills will automatically reload, so basically subsistence. Think of it as a better subsistence. This one was only available to Titans though. It was another Titan specific thing, so if it came back, it would maybe need a more refining, but of course it would be more open to everything, so there's that. Editing Scorpion here, realized I missed something, and that was because obviously it was a class specific thing, didn't show up when I was on my Titan, and that is specifically the Scout Rifle Talok. If you don't know what that was the class exotic specific for Warlocks back in Destiny 1. Basically was like the swords are in Destiny 2, literally can't use them on any other characters, unique to Warlocks. Its perks that made it special was an Intrinsic Grenadier, aka Demolitionist, as well as Eye of the Storm, so it was already really great at handling, and Overflow, which was basically similar to Fabian's strategy, better handling, better stability, and increased rate of fire, but it is all while the super is charged. So if you never use your super, it was an infinite ability. It was pretty solid. And not to mention Ace of Spades, which I've already probably mentioned this once before. That was the hunter-specific weapon, hand cannon. Obviously, it's in Destiny 2. It's gotten its catalyst. It got slightly buffed catalyst not so long ago, but it's kind of at a point where I don't think anything else is going to change with it, whether it be its description or whether or not it's going to be buffed or nerfed. I think it's exactly where it needs to be. Then Mida, that was already returned, as has Thorn, and Kvostov will be coming back. And in the Crucible, the way it is now, Kvostov could actually kind of survive, because the whole gimmick and perk of this thing was having a variety of options. You can set its rate of fire between semi-burst and up fully automatic. You could pick a scope for either short or long range. You can also pick just pure range with slower reload, more stability, a larger mag, a whole, like, this was incredibly customizable. You can even change its rate of fire. This in Destiny 2 would be pretty solid, because obviously the more customization options you have on an exotic, the better it can perform. But it's hard to say if they'll do more than just having a incredibly customizable exotic, because we already have that kind of in Revision 0. Then, of course, Outbreak Perfected. That one has already returned. It's hard to say if that will change in any way. Obviously, there is the talk, because this was a former raid exotic. Bungie has mentioned that when they bring back Wrath Machine, they will do something new for it, because obviously this one can't exist again. It would be a waste of time. Then getting into special weapons. So, again, variety of these have already restored, but bear with me. Telesto, Plan C, Queenbreaker's Bow, Chaperone, all of those have already existed, and they're already either great or forgotten. Then Invective. This one was tricky, because I enjoyed this one. It was the first of, think of it like a smaller Fourth Horseman, because it was already intrinsically automatic. But it also had Last Round, which is basically opening shot, but for damage instead of stats. And it is iconic, because supposedly this is Ikora Ray's shotgun, but this one is what makes it hard. This one was one of the auto-regenerating ammo guns. It was very solid. I loved using it. The problem is always with the way the economy is and ammo generation and everything. Automatically regenerating ammo, that is probably a thing of the past. We will probably never see that again, aside from perks that require something to regenerate ammo. And keep in mind, this isn't like a Fourth Times where you have to do something, or Cenotaph where you have to have somebody else kill a marked target to get the ammo. This would literally just make ammo over time. That is what probably will never come back, is just printing more ammo. Speaking of one that may never come back, Universal Remote. Mainly because this one, think of it like Fighting Lion, but in shotgun form. It was pretty oppressive in terms of Crucible, and it was one of the ways that in terms of early Destiny, you can have more than one shotgun, depending on 3. I forget if there was a heavy shotgun in Destiny 1. But at the same time, it was pretty much just aiming down sight gave you more range. Think shot package on Fellwinters in Destiny 2, but also Fighting Lion. Like, literally, this thing didn't take special ammo. It took primary ammo. So that would definitely ruin the Crucible. And then we have the variety of special weapons. Fourth Horseman's already come back, Lord of Wolves, Dreg's Promise. I'm not sure what should be here exactly, but whatever it was, it's probably not something. Then we also have Patience and Time. This one is a tricky one, because this one could be pretty cool, although it might need to change colors or damage types. Now, this is an arc sniper rifle that basically would give you radar when aimed down sights, which was a lot more handy in Destiny 1, but its main perk was this. You will eventually turn invisible while aiming down sights. This is definitely a Crucible-focused thing, or at the very minimum, a PvE endgame thing, in case invisibility was required. invisibility was really good in Destiny 1 for endgame, but at the same time, this was more a Crucible sniper anyways, and at the same time, how potent would it be this, just aiming and getting invisibility? It would have to be really tuned down in order to get anything. And then Trespasser, that one's already returned, and of the exotics here, some exist, but also one exists in a way that we can't ever access. Now, one that I would genuinely love to see is Hereafter, because with the increase of blinding sources, this one is a nice one. Now, unfortunately, just because of the existence of, centrifuge, it would seem like a gimmick, because it does have an interesting thing about it, where it does crouch to increase zoom and increase flinch resistance, but his main perk was that if the magazine, well, obviously, if you precision kill everything, you get everything back. Think of it 4 times, but really hard. And then you also have Blinding Light, where precision kills would make a blinding explosion, which, compared to Centrifuge, actually would be pretty solid. But at this point, this would literally just be the sniper rifle version of Centrifuge, so it would need some extra kick, and at that point, I could think maybe Cloud Strike it, but then it would be just another Cloud Strike, so this would need serious reworking if it did come back. And then Whisper the Worm, that is returned. No Land Beyond, this one's tricky because it exists in-game as a model. If you've ever met Devram K, you know he wields this thing, but it's hard to see this for the same reason of Universal Remote. Yes, this was an incredibly high-skill weapon. You obviously this is the only bolt-action rifle in the game. It had an incredibly slow fire rate in comparison to other guns. Literally had to fire it in a volley. If you ever watched the Dado No Land Beyond, you had to literally coordinate how you fired to get this thing to even work. Now, with this thing, it's hard to say if they would ever be bold enough for the same reason. If you had a sniper rifle that took primary ammo, fighting lion style, that would be terrible. If you just had a kinetic sniper that was bolt action but incredibly hard hitting, maybe it would be high skill, high reward sort of thing. But its original gimmick of taking primary arrow would have to be changed if this were ever to come back. And then Icebreaker, basically a dragonfly / incandescent sniper rifle that also had infinite ammo. Also, it had Mulligan, which was always nice in Destiny 1, but yeah, this was a sideways invective because it just had 6 shots. It generated the 6 shots batched over time and never reloaded. It would literally just be the magazine steadily filled up bullet by bullet. Would love to see it come back, but for the same reasons, I don't think that is ever coming back. And then moving on. Now, there is a few things here that is mainly the heavies. Now, Legacy is something that already existed in the game, so I'm not going to talk about them just yet, because obviously we'll get around to that. But then, in terms of our heavies, so we have Sleeper Simulant, already turned. Thunderlord, already there. Super good advice in this day and age, it would need some serious down-tuning, because if you don't know what it was, basically it had a Rampage, as well as super good advice, where any missed shots could be returned to the magazine. Landing shots be replaced in your magazine from reserves, which is basically if you miss the target, you get free bullets. If you hit the target, you could get some free auto-loading. In this day and age with Actium War Rig, I would never see people run out of ammo with this thing. It would definitely need some reworking and some retuning if you wanted to use it, or if Bungie wanted to even restore it. And then we have Dragon's Breath. This one is confirmed to be coming back, finally, thank you, because this was a personal favorite of everything, which it's tricky because kills will increase reload speed. It's pretty simple. It has extra ammo, not to mention that it would be essentially Sunbracers, the rocket launcher. But, you know, I'm excited to see what they do with it. Then we also have Truth, returned. Now, the exotic swords all here. I never got the solar one, so it's hard to say all of them. But all of the variety of sword perks, the Whirlwind from Dark Drinker, the Uppercut from the solar one, the Flung Projectile from Boltcaster, all of that has been restored to Destiny in some way on Legendary Swords. So with all of my heart, I definitely think that at least the original 3 Elemental Swords, dusted, never coming back, more than likely. If they ever do, they'll need something extra spicy to make them different, like a complete rework. And then, of course, Galahorn, already returned. Nemesis Star is one that I would kind of like to see how it plays in the potential for a rework, because it was basically a Grenadier one. You could, and spray and play, I forget that this thing gave bonus grenade energy, but at the same time, it was, how do I say this? Well, obviously, on trigger pull, it would have increased rate of fire, and it would steadily slow down. But then also, when you unlocked the last perk, at least, when you fire longer and longer, it would slow down in exchange for higher rate of fire. Think of it like Suros, but backwards. Instead of having increasing rate of fire or slow for higher damage, it had increased rate of fire that spun down to slower, all in one burst, as long as you held the trigger. I love it as a design, and I enjoyed using it. I just don't think this would survive exactly on its use now. It's just one of those things. You always need to do something to change it up. Same with Young Wolf's Howl, because essentially what this one is became Throne Cleaver, where it had a over-the-head slam sword attack that would explode and leave a little solar fiery thing. If it made instant ignitions with every slam, I might say this one could be cool, but just the fact that you have the overhead kill or the overhead slam, that wouldn't be enough to compete with Throne Cleaver, especially now that they have the same elements. Then, in terms of a few legacy exotics, just cover everything. Nova Mortis and Abaddon, depending if they were allowing essentially palette swaps again, I might see these working. It's hard to say how they would work. I don't know if they would do it in a Scorch apply or Volatile and Suppression apply. I would love to see the idea of it. The problem is, it's just not conducive with coming out, because I think these were initially released in the end times of Destiny when there was nothing else to do, so why not release the 3 elemental versions? But it's hard to say, considering they were carbon copies of each other, just with different elements. They would definitely need a spicy bit to restore it to various variety. And then getting throughout the rest, we've already covered all of these legacy gears, but there's a few legacy gears in here that is the most intriguing. Personally, is one that I wish would come back, and that is Plan C, which, if you don't know what it is, think Fourth Horseman, but fusion rifle. Literally full auto fusion rifle. It wasn't charge, fire, it was charge, fire, dump the mag. Not to mention, it also had mulligan, which was basically if you missed it, or if you missed a shot, you would get the thing. And it was, I think, nerfed to a ton because it only has 3 rounds naturally, but you can, of course, get extended mag to get more. And this was pretty much super good advice, copy and paste it onto Pocket Infinity. The thing is, I want this back because theme-wise, it is a Rasputin fusion rifle, plus I think it would be fun. But then again, this one has Merciless as its competition, which is the same thing essentially, it just needs an extra step to it to get there. So, another thing that unfortunately I think is going to be left by the wayside at the end of the day with Destiny. Now, like I said, all of the other exotic primaries from raids, those are all gimmicks, considering they are weapons that came back. The only thing that's exotic about them is their damage type, which for Destiny, primaries with damage types was something from year 1, and only came back during the end times of year 3, which the caveat of needing the elemental damage was having it be the exotic in your slot. So, like I said, there was a few things in here that I don't really have on my character exactly leveled up and unlocked, mostly being no time to explain and everything else. But there is, obviously, that is the brief rundown of the exotic weaponry that is not returning just yet. Now, personally, like I said, that's all my opinion. Bungie has already kind of countered my opinion with the return of Red Death, because thousands of times when somebody said, I want Red Death in Destiny 2, I would say, well, they made Crimson, and they literally referenced Red Death in its making, so there is no way that is coming back, because they would obviously be the same thing, just different archetypes. But on that, that is pretty much everything I had to say for this video. Fair warning though, I probably will be a little bit delayed in terms of making other videos today. I am intending to release this Tuesday morning, but at the same time, people are working on my house and replacing the roof, so there is a chance for lots of noise and requiring a lot more editing. And in the next video I will be covering the exotic armor in Destiny 1 and some of the things just like this. What could come back, what would need major reworking, and what probably will never come back at all. With that, my name is Matt Scorpion, and I will see you in the next video.